All right, everyone, it's time. Main card tings. So, we got Robert Whitaker, Kelvin Gastelum headlining that one with a pretty cool co-main event, right? We got Stephen Thompson taking on a guy like Jakar Close, who's pretty much climbed the ranks, only two real losses on his record. So let's get right into the Alex Munoz and Luis Pena fight before we get into that. I think both these guys are going to be using their wrestling a little bit. I think that Pena is going to be a bit better of a striker, but Munoz proved that he can actually take some good damage. I think that's the one thing we saw in the last fight. You were a little disappointed with the lack of success in the wrestling. And I think by the third round, he was something like 1 for 8 or 1 for 9 in takedowns. It's not what you want to see from a primary, wrestling athlete who's coming out of Team Alpha Male. We know what they do with their striking, good power shots, a lot of combos, just set up that level change and take it to the ground. I think that he definitely came up short in that fight. It was obvious that, there were areas to improve on. The one thing I want to say about Luis Pena is the length, right? I think that, Bob Ross here is just so much length and pot shot type of ability in a fight like this. I think you saw Munoz be hella flat footed. He had the good showing of the Dana Contender Series, but at the same time, I think that when you're looking at some of his past wrongdoings, it'll just play really, really well into what Luis Pena does well. And so if I'm him, I'm trying to utilize the fact that this is not as good of a striker as I faced in the past, to be honest. And I think getting in close, really finishing those takedowns and getting it to the ground and maybe making Pena work for submissions and things like that off of his back. That's how you're going to gain momentum. That's how you're going to gain confidence in this fight. I don't think that he's a bad striker by any means. I think he can get his shots in there, but the last fight against Nasrat Haqparast was just so tough to watch, right? Because you saw a guy calling his opponent over, but I don't think Nasrat was getting pretty, taken aback by that. He just played his game, didn't really, get off his game plan. I think that was the best part of that fight for me. I think that you had Nasrat prove that even after his loss, that he's such a good striker for the UFC level, worked his wrestling with Khabib. There's a good little group of athletes there that are sticking together and getting better as a group. And I think that we saw that against Alex Munoz. So if I'm Munoz, it's a lot of lateral movement. Stop moving forward, back. You need to improve the footwork when it comes to striking. Otherwise, you're just going to get tagged for 3 rounds and hope that you can land a takedown at some point in the fight to either try and take over or get your infamous guillotines in and rear nakeds. But in this case, I don't think that Luis Pena is going to be as good of a striker as Nasrat Haqparast is. And that's the big thing, right? Coming out of AKA, the wrestling style gym, his ground game is going to be sound. So if we watch two guys just push each other up against the fence for a while without much, striking happening, there's a chance. But at the same time, when you look at the way that Munoz played his game in the last fight, when you look at the way Luis Pena tries to fight his fight, I think that you're going to see these guys try to feel each other out in the feet a lot. You're going to see Pena use the length, get some kicks in there, get some pot shots, some jabs in there, because I think that's the one way to get Munoz off his game is if he's going to keep being the forward, the north-south fighter that we're seeing, well then, tagging up a little bit with leg kicks and getting those, jabs in until you maybe even want to work it up against the fence yourself. But there's opportunities to tire him out. And I think that if you flip the script a little bit, Munoz needs to get in there close. Not be afraid. Get in close, beat the jab, get past those hands and start working the body and work the takedowns. I think that if he can get it up against the fence, he should have some good strength and technique to get this to the ground, work some ground and pound. I mean, that's the big thing with Faber is I think he's going to actually force him to kind of push that a bit more. You even heard him yell a little bit about how he was just missing certain opportunities and not setting them up very well. Like he was missing the uppercut so much. He kept getting tagged by the same uppercut when he would go in for the shot and he wasn't seeing it. And Faber had to kind of mention that going to the third round. So little things like that you would hope that Alex picks up a little bit on when it comes to, the fight IQ, things like that, because now he's not facing such a versatile striker, but he's going to have to deal with the length. He is going to have to deal with some kicks and probably some jabs that are coming his way. And being able to get past those to then work in your own game plan as the smaller fighter is very, very important. And I think that's where we're going to see his game plan go. I think that even if, Pena starts to show a bit of some signs of fatigue, I think that's going to be a great opportunity for Munoz to try and take over. Again, this fight, when we're looking at the lines, man, it's still hella close. I don't see much of a difference here. You're getting Munoz now at around that plus 120 and Luis Pena is now moved up to a minus 150. So obviously leaving that range of say closer to a pick'em, but at the same time, we know why that's the case. Pena's the longer fighter, should be the better striker. Both have good wrestling pedigree. So there's a lot more going in his favor, but at the same time, when you don't see those minus 300 lines, there's a reason for that. And I think that comes down to Munoz's wrestling. I think it comes down to his ability to maybe hold him down, get the ground and pound going, and really just show what Team Alpha Male is all about. So stay tuned for that one. I think it's going to be a highly interesting fight, just for two guys who are on the come up and have really good all around games, except for Peña, who maybe has that edge in the striking and length.